All right, we continue then our conversation and take a look at the legal implications and ramifications around President Cyril Ramaphosa and the Phala farm investigation. Legal analyst Mpumelelo Zikalala now joins us via Zoom. A very good afternoon to you, and thanks for joining us here on SABC News.
Good afternoon to you, and also good afternoon to your viewers.
All right, well, it seems that the Phala farm is still buzzing with activity. Should this be, the case, given that the farm, or the president really is under investigation about the goings-on the farm? I mean, one might argue, in terms of perception, it might not be great, but legally, is there anything wrong legally?
No, nothing at all, especially for the farm or the establishment of the entity, which is Phala farm. There's nothing wrong. They can still continue with whatever activities which are going on within that particular, or they would use to continue that particular facility. However, it does spell a few problems for the president. Just remember, the number one of the country has to be susceptible or must comply with the constitution at all costs. Now, if you look at the conduct in which cabinet members, who is part of the cabinet members, must act in, he's not allowed to act in a manner which is inconsistent, which is out of office, that can cause potential conflict. Now, take note of the word, not actual conflict which is taking place, but potential conflicts that may be perceived as us as members of the public, of that is now furthering his private interest rather than the public's interest. So I think the president was ought to have been advised to say, Mr. President, you have a matter which is going on in court. There are still things in Parliament which are still outstanding. We'd rather advise you not to partake in anything which is related to the Phala farm, which I'm calling it cows trading, up until this particular cloud is blown over. And your role and responsibilities are very clear. Most importantly for us, we want a president who's going to be 100% committed to us and do not mix us with any other private activity that is there or any other private business that he may have an interest in.
And I mean, speaking about that, I mean, in terms of the Constitution, let's clarify then what that actually says with regards to a president who also does have very clearly and very openly other business interests. I mean, it has been said before that this actually shouldn't be the case, but, we're seeing this play itself out. I mean, perhaps there are exceptions to the rule, I suppose, in anything that we're dealing with legally. There's always some sort of an exception to the rule. So what is there? What is that exception to the rule, if there is one?
In this case, there's no exception at all. If you look at Section 96(2) of the Constitution, it's very clear. Mr. President and the cabinet members are not allowed to participate in any other paid work. They're not allowed to act or to be or put yourself in a position in which your existence or your participation in that particular activity is going to cause or create a potential conflict between your public duties and your private interest. And 3, you can't use any information that you've obtained through the occupation of your office. So those 3 rules are quite clear. There's no exception to the rule whatsoever. It simply means when you agree to be the president, the deputy president, the minister, or the deputy minister, you can't partake in any other activity which is going to put you in a conflict or create a perception that you may be furthering your interest. Now, from the side of the president, the number one citizen of the country, knowing very well the type of controversy which is still following him and the black cloud which is following him when it comes to the Phala farm and Akora trading, he should have said, I want to make sure that I want to protect the image of the office that I'm occupying at the moment. And the way in which I'm going to do that, I'm going to say, I do not want to partake in any of the activities. I may write them a message of support and it will only end there. But in terms of I appearing and I being there and be able to deliver whatever statements that I need to deliver, I'm not going to do that. Because from the side of the public, and you've stated earlier in your earlier interviews, how does it look like? You can attend to private and trading activities, but you can't attend to the cabinet reshuffle when you have a vacancy of a second in command. The deputy president was no longer there. The leader of government business is no longer there. Minister of electricity, which was promised more than 20 days ago, and that position has not been filled. Now, I, sitting at home, am of the perception that maybe we don't have a president that has our interests at heart or does not look at the activities in which he has to continue or execute as being the president quite seriously. So, on that perspective, I think it was ill-advised or wrongly advised.
Mr. Zikalala, last week, the president's application to overturn Section 89 ruling that he has a case to answer in the goings-on of the farm was dismissed. What happens now, and what's your view of how that played out? I mean, there had been some sort of perception. Certainly, I'd seen it on social media where people were of the view that whatever case that the president puts forward, he is going to win. But so, what do you make of that, and what happens here from here?
I think the Constitutional Court was clear in terms of saying we do not, for lack of a better word, care who you are. Yeah. When you're elected in this particular court, we're going to treat you in a normal fashion. Now, the rules of the Court are clear. I think it's Rule 18, if I'm not mistaken, when it comes to direct access. You can only have direct access when it comes to exceptional circumstances, exceptional matters which are of a constitutional nature, and only us as the Constitutional Court can be able to deal with it without such an expedient or a short amount of time, which the results are then required. In any other matter, go back to your provincial division. They'll be able to deal with it. Don't take away the process of sifting the jurisprudence and creating legal jurisprudence when it comes to certain matters, especially in regards to the president and their constitutional obligations. We want the thoughts of the legal practitioners when they are in the provincial divisions, the SCA, and eventually within the Constitutional Court. You may want a fast, expedient result at the end of the day, but follow the normal course as you and I would follow in any other circumstance that is there. There is a view, though, that says, well, on the order that was issued, one would seek clarity if I was one of the litigants of saying, Court, did you really read the papers and consider the merits, or is your order made purely based on the technicality of direct access and nothing else? Because if you have read the merits, the dismissal then says it's something bigger than that. It simply says, well, we may have won the case technically by not even submitting even a single document or arguing a single thing. However, if the dismissal is purely based on a technical basis, then we have to start at the provincial division, in which the president will simply have to file a new notice of motion and doesn't even have to change his affidavit if he still believes that whatever is written there is what he wants to stick by. And that has no bearing at all on the parliamentary processes. Parliament can still have its own program, and you will still be able to dispute whatever the interim results or the results of that Section 89 committee suggested.
All right. Thank you so very much, Mr. Zikalala, for joining us and giving us your input here on SABC News. We always appreciate it. Mpumelelo Zikalala, legal analyst, they're weighing in on the issue that, of course, we have been talking about while everybody has Phala on their minds.